Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Dean Webb, he is the man of the hour, and I read so much about Dean Webb. He's doing so many things. When he first came to Faith Farm, they had no idea what they bought. This man has changed the face of Faith Farm, and he loves it, and his enthusiasm never wears thin. So welcome to the show, Dean, and you brought this beautiful woman with you today.
I did. I brought a woman from Great Britain, came to the U.S. at age 22. Ursula came to Faith Farm, and she has now stayed over and is helping us as an advanced student. And I would probably really like to shut up and let you talk to her for the rest of the program and hear her story, because it's really something.
Well, Ursula, for me, I have been privileged to hear a lot of people, some come to the studio, as you've done, and then others I go to the graduation. And I always say one never knows who someone is. You meet them at a party, you meet them somewhere, and if you could just have an x-ray machine and then see who they are. So you're so beautiful, and you have such a beautiful smile, but life hasn't always been so beautiful for you, has it?
No, ma'am, it has not. What brought me to Faith Farm was a long life of a hole in my heart. I never knew my father, and unfortunately, he died before I had the opportunity to ever meet him. So there was a very large hole for many, 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 many years, which resulted in me feeling the pain and making alcohol my friend, unfortunately. There were spurts and times when, even years, when I touched nothing, but the hole was still empty. I had hit rock bottom, and my daughters, who are married now, I said to them, I want not to go to a rehab, quote unquote. I want to go somewhere where there is Jesus, somewhere where I will be healed. So,
well, let me stop you for a moment. Could you not have found Jesus without going to a rehab center?
I had found Jesus. I am a Catholic. My mother's Irish, born in Dublin, and my father's from South Africa. I was raised in Catholicism. At an orientation class at Faith Farm, Sister Marion said, Ursula, read the first paragraph of our lesson. And it said, and she prayed to her daddy in heaven. I said, oh no, I said, that's rubbish. You do not call Jesus daddy. That is sacrilegious. That is an insult. He's to be bowed to. He's to be revered. He's to be worshipped. She said, no, Ursula, Jesus is your Father in heaven who made your earthly father that abandoned you. And to make a long story short, I broke down. And from that moment on, the wound was being sewn up.
Now I remember when I went to the graduation, you made such an impression on me with what you said. I have been repeating that people, some people who don't have a daddy carry that with them. In fact, there was another main speaker that was looking for his father, and it was the same thing that that meant so much to them, and then that they were able to talk about Jesus being the Father that they lost and never knew. That's a wonderful story, Ursula.
Yes, ma'am. And I felt instantly complete. Faith Farm has taught me Faith is a relationship with your Heavenly Father. Galatians 4:6 in the New Testament. I sent the Spirit of my Son who calls out, Abba, Father, Daddy. Jewish people refer to Abba as Father. I now wake up in the morning and say, good morning, Abba, Daddy, Father. How are you doing? Would you like tea? Would you like sugar in your coffee? It is a relationship. I no longer, to this day, feel when I am by myself, I am ever now alone.
Dean, that's such a beautiful story. Have you heard this a lot?
Oh, you hear it all the time. I lost my dad in an auto accident on Thanksgiving morning when I was 12 years old. And so I relate totally to the hole in your heart of not having a father. Now, my father loved me. He would take me on trips. I saw him. He was on the radio. I saw him in the church as a pastor. So I had identity with him, but it still was just a shocking, colossal loss when that black sedan with 4 pastors pulled up on Thanksgiving morning to tell my mom that my dad had been killed in an auto accident. So I didn't have the abandonment that Ursula had because her father left. And it's kind of like in divorces. We were talking on the way down here. A lot of times, kids that are involved, where their parents are involved in divorce, they take on the guilt themselves. They feel like, oh my gosh, I must have done something wrong, and I'm sure Ursula probably had something similar. Like what about me? Why did you leave me? You can say it better than I can.
Yes, I said, why did you leave me? Was I not lovable? I was a little baby. What did I do to you? But something in me now, because I love the Lord Jesus so much, knowing what it's like to be without a father, and now knowing what it is like to have one, the love is so strong.
And you see, but you're sharing this with others who are coming, and maybe they're not as good as articulating what you're saying. And I'm just going to throw in something on my own life, which you're making me think of. I had a father. My mother and father divorced. I had a father, but when he was 40, I was about 12, he announced that he was gay. But I loved my father, and I stuck with him through the whole thing. And even as he died when I was 88, but I was always there. Whenever he needed me, he was not the nicest person. And my mother would say, why do you go and do this and torment you? I said, because I need a father. It's funny.
Yeah.
And in whatever condition he was, and even though he said things I didn't think was that were right, I knew I needed a father. Isn't that funny?
Right.
And
I never heard that. That's
I know
a great
you never
story.
heard that.
I've
And Bill
never
would
heard
say,
that from you.
I hate to see you have your father talk to you like that. And I said, you know what, Bill? I love my father no matter what. And so that's what's in me.
Well,
And
in Scripture, there's a verse that says, the glory of children are their fathers. And
I never heard that.
and you never, the father figure. I mean, a lot of our society is breaking down. Like for example, here at Faith Farm, a lot of the gentlemen that come in our program, either their fathers left early or they were just non-existent. They sired the kid and left. And so they've never even had a father model figure to model setting an alarm, getting up, going to work. And that's why the Faith Farm work ethic for me is so important, that these guys get this so they can compete when they graduate, because they have not had the father figure. So they not only have not had the model, but they got that hole in their heart that's just, it's just huge until they find out that God is their father and they can go directly to him and pray.
So I have a question. Do any of the women who haven't had mothers or know them, do they feel the same thing? What do you think?
Yes, they do feel the same way. And the way that I can explain that to you is when Jesus makes his baby in the mother's womb. We merely carry that baby. And we don't even sometimes know that that baby really is there until we see the foot stick out and we see the 5 toes. And then we realize, oh, wow, this is really real. But just like the ladies, my mother's eyes are green. Mine are light brown. My daddy's are light brown. My mother's hands are slim. Mine are a little pudgy. My daddy's hands were pudgy. I walk with my daddy every day. He is who I am. I am who he is. We cannot be separated. Mother or father, it takes two. It takes two. It will always take two.
Let's get back then to Faith Farm. So how did you find Faith Farm?
My daughters found Faith Farm for me. I was working in Los Olas. I had a wonderful job. I was going to church at Calvary Chapel. And Pastor Bob was our pastor, and I love him, I love him, I love him. We all fall, but we will all rise. And they called and told me, Mommy, there's a place called Faith Farm. And Faith Farm called me several times, and I thought that they were saying State Farm. And I said, I don't need any insurance. So
I get that.
I hung up. And then finally, Sister Marion called and she said, no, it's Faith with an F, Farm. Well, when I heard the word faith, I knew Jesus was there, and I said yes. But most of all, we are not charged a penny for being given so much wealth when we leave. I do want to say this for my niece Haley. I graduated. I'm going on my 3rd year. I graduated. I became SLS. I graduated SLS. I'm now
Excuse me, I don't know what SLS
Student
is.
Leadership Service. It's the next year after graduation.
And I'm an advanced student 1. When I graduated, everybody came from England. Everybody stood up. Nobody sat down until Ursula sat down. But my niece, who at 18 was the most beautiful woman you'd ever seen, Magnum cum laude, she unfortunately got involved with a boyfriend and smoked crack with him. The pushers now lace these drugs with terrible chemicals just to make the quantity larger for more that they can kill. Haley smoked this, and it burned the left side of her brain. She is 35 years old today with the brain power of a 12-year-old, that she will die that way. And she stood up and she said to me, Auntie Ursula, please don't leave now. Please show these ladies. This is life and death. This is life and death. Don't play with your lives. These pushers don't care. It's just money they want. Come to Faith Farm. Come to the Lord. Go back to him. Find out and get to the core of your issue. That's what they do at Faith Farm. I only wish that had happened for Haley. And that's why I'm still here. Because drugs do this kind of satanic thing when you use them.
Well, I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking about all those people, and Dean has shared so many of them, people who come from such good homes and such good education, and mothers and fathers. But somehow, you're right, something has happened, whatever it is inside them, that they got on the wrong track. and a lot of them come from religious families. So it's just the wrong track. And the nice thing is that, and I've seen it, and of course you've experienced it, they never make you feel bad at Faith Farm, that you're a bad person or anything really to shame. They never bring shame in, do they, Ursula?
No, ma'am. It is literally heaven on earth. It is stop the world, I want to get off. Stop the world, I want to get off. Faith Farm gets to the core of the issue. I emulate it this way. Simply put, when I talk to the ladies in the intake office, the mothers that cry for their daughters, the fathers that cry for their daughters, they say to me, Ursula, what do you really do there? Explain to me. With Jesus, only with Jesus now, I emulate it this way. A miner goes into the mine and he finds gold. It's full of junk, it's full of mess, it's full of slime, it's full of dirt. He knows he's got gold. He knows it. But he cannot see it, appreciate it, value it, even understand how much he has until that gold goes into the hot, fiery furnace. And all that junk goes to the top, and that beautiful gold and sparkle comes to the bottom. That's what we do with Jesus at Faith Farm. We get to the core. There are children that come from very rich families that have no purpose. They don't even know why they're alive. This is the porch, and the mansion is in the sky. There's nothing certain in life but death and taxes. The porch is here, and Faith Farm gets to the core. I only wish Haley had had that chance before this happened to her.
So, Dean, this is very poignant and very much from the heart. And you've heard so many stories, not exactly like it, but similar. What is it, though? You always say people have to reach the very bottom. What is it that triggers them to come to Faith Farm?
Different things for different people. Some people are looking for change and they don't know where to find it, and some people have criteria like Ursula did. She didn't want it just a fluffy recovery. She wanted a God-based, faith-based unit, and so her children found that for her. Other people stumble on, and we've had people who have come. We had a gentleman come down to Lauderdale. And he came in, and one of the things we make them do is we have a little 9-minute video on our website. I said, they may not have seen that, and even if they have, make them sit and watch it before you start going through that 18 pages of paperwork. And we've had guys look at that and just say, you know what, I'm an atheist. I couldn't stay here for 9 months. Boom, and they're gone. And I said, we're not going to reach everybody. Now, the people that come in, we can change their life, but they've got to want to be here. They've got to want to change. And that's the toughest thing our intake people have, is to try and determine the motivation of people. John Glenn, one of our board members, who wrote the Alpha course, which is one of our courses accredited for college credits, he says this: everybody at Faith Farm needs to be here. Not everybody wants to be here. He said they all need it, but not everybody really wants it. And you have to be motivated. And a lot of people hit rock bottom. We have guys that Monday morning, the intake counselor, Paul Zielinski, he'll have a guy sleeping in a sleeping bag underneath the awning, waiting for the door to open because he's hit rock bottom.
And then you told me about people who've done things where they were the judge going to put him in jail. And then they say to you, your organization, that if you go to Faith Farm.
How about the girl that came back this morning? You were telling me driving down here. The girl in the program, She came and she came in the program. She did not even know, if I recall right, she didn't know that she had a warrant out for her arrest. She had no idea. And all of a sudden she get a court summons, where I think the father got it at home, and he came to pick her up because, and so she went to the court. But say what happened.
The judge heard that she had come to Faith Farm. She had been here one day. When she got to Faith Farm, she didn't want to be there. But after orientation class, she read the U-Turn book, U-Turn to God. All of the blessings and all of the history of Faith Farm, of the success that God has produced in those that believe. And it was like a little girl reading Cinderella, 4 years old. She read the whole book while she was on cleaning crew. And she told the judge that she was at Faith Farm and she could not wait to get back. And she was back the next day.
I think we have just made a preacher out of Ursula. I mean, I'm listening to the kinds of things she's saying. I think she needs a church. I know.
Well,
I'm
you know
really
what?
feeling this. I mean, I know she's great at Faith Farm and she can help, but I think she's got enough stuff going that she ought to find a church.
Yeah. Well, she ministers
lead.
wherever she goes. In Scripture, it talks about says that the God people, the Christians, should be salt and light, sprinkled throughout our community.
Right.
And I say often people, once they come to God, they kind of click together like a salt lick. They all stick together. Well, that doesn't help. That's not being sprinkled out.
I see. You're right.
And so I believe people like Ursula, who is a marvelous jazz singer, by the way, and
we haven't talked about
she's
that
got
yet.
recordings. We haven't talked about that yet. People like her, she is going to go in and reach people that I would never encounter.
Yeah.
And she will touch their lives in a place that I would never touch, because
More
she's
like a missionary, right?
she's going
That's
to
what you're-
move in different circles. So we need people who have had their life changed, sprinkled throughout society to help touch people's lives.
Yeah, I think, is that what you feel like?
I think that this is a big, big world. I'm from England. It took 13 hours to get to America. That's a long time in a plane. In Russia, they have cirrhosis of the liver a lot. In Czechoslovakia, in England, we need Faith Farm. In Saudi Arabia, we need Faith Farm.
Forget it. He's not letting him leave the United States.
It's a worldwide epidemic. The disease of addiction is a worldwide epidemic. I want to be able to just tell the truth about what's going on. Yes, I sing jazz, but the disease of addiction is a huge epidemic with movie stars, with singers, with those that make a lot of money. And we even say at Faith Farm, the more dough you have, the quicker you're going to die.
Oh, my.
You can buy as much as you need.
Oh, yeah, right.
You can buy as much as you need to burst your heart. It is at a point now where Jesus says enough is enough. I want my children back. Satan, you can't have them anymore. It's worldwide now. It's worldwide.
I don't know if you all know there is another drug of very serious consequence. Have you become?
Flakka?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just at a meeting where the sheriff was telling us, and then the CEO of the hospital. It is a teeny little fleck, and it puts people in. Their temperature goes up to 106. They have to put them in an ice bath, and they're lucky if they survive. They're having deaths from it. So, I mean, this is something I don't know if Faith Farm's even aware that this is coming on, and you're going to find, if you're lucky, even to get them there.
Well, yeah, most of the people that take flakka, most of the time we don't get them. They either die or they're fried or whatever. It's really scary,
coming out of China, apparently.
Yeah, it's just I'm just amazed at how they keep coming up with all these weird drugs for these guys to sell and make money and kill people. I mean, they just. And the worst thing is if you don't die from it, if you get your brain fried, like her precious niece is almost not a vegetable, but she's in her 20s and she's in her a 12-year-old brain. Mind.
She's in her. She's 35,
Oh,
and
35.
she's 35, and she has the brain power of a 12-year-old, and it's at a point now where it's a domino effect. I look at my sister, and my sister looks 20 years older than she is with the heartache
because
of
her
what's
daughter.
happened to her
Her daughter,
child. It's a domino effect. When mommy's sick, everybody's sick. When the baby's sick, everybody's sick in the family. You just don't go to bed if your child is sick and sleep well if you know that they're ill. So it's a domino effect. Faith Farm has saved families and children and grandchildren and families worldwide as well as right here.
That's a good point. You know, when I ask you how many people have come through there, we don't actually talk about them, the families, because
the domino
you're right.
effect.
You could just multiply.
Yeah, we
it
had a
by
lady
3.
graduate recently, and her father
That's a good point,
came
Ursula.
down from Cincinnati, and he sat in my office, and he said, when Candace came into our program, my wife and I slept through the night for the first time in over 20 years.
Yeah, you told me.
He said,
about
"You have
that, I
no
remember.
idea of. I don't worry that my daughter's in a ditch somewhere or that she's overdosed. She's at Faith Farm, and we slept the whole night. We just couldn't believe what it felt like to get a night's sleep without worrying about our daughter." And so, like Ursula says, it's a ripple effect. It affects. It's not just the person who's addicted; it affects the whole family.
Well, I have to say something because I always do this. If you're looking to donate money after you listen to Ursula and what she said, and you know that there are 400 men and women being taken care of over 9 months, you have to do it. So let me tell you how you're going to do that. You're going to call them at 561-737-2222. That's a good number. Just tell them you want to either you want to pick up of something, you want to donate money. They'll figure out how to get where they're supposed to, but you could go to their website. You'll see everything there. It's a great website. You'll see Dean Webb. You'll hear him. It's faithfarm.org, faithfarm.org. Give them the money. You'll see it being used so beautifully, and thank you, Ursula, so much.
Thank you
You're
for having us
welcome.
on.
Thanks,
Thank you for
Dean.
having me.